14. Hallam turned off the Royal Mile, roses under his arm, and into Urquhart's Close. It felt strange to be looking up at the tall grey tenement rather than down on it, as had been his perspective in former visits. The outer door was locked, so he rang the intercom of Kate's flat. He was uneasy. He had not seen or spoken to her since his return, and she had not answered his telephone messages. What was she doing in there? He was not used to being kept in the dark about his subjects' lives, but she was no longer a subject, he reminded himself sternly. Indeed, he no longer had any subjects. It was all part of respecting other people's privacy. It made him feel doubly bereft. Predictably, she did not answer, although he knew her routines inside out, and found it difficult to believe that on Saturday morning she would be out shopping or seeing friends. He had to talk to her. He wanted to tell her about all the steps he had taken towards becoming a normal person. He had burned his logbooks. He had tried to initiate some ordinary friendships, however scorchingly embarrassing. He had even attempted social interaction with his neighbors. He wanted to tell her that he would apply himself fervently to improving his sexual technique. Why wouldn't she answer? He buzzed again and again. Eventually, Hallam stepped back and stared out longingly at the uncooperative windows and sighed. He was determined not to revert to his old methods. Determined. It felt as if he had been off the roofs for months, although in truth it was 9 days, 10 nights. He looked around him at the Edinburgh skyline, the castle, the blackened fang of the Highland toll booth, the Salisbury crags, the Parliament scaffolding. Perhaps it was time he found a new city, without quite so much voyeuristic temptation. But he suspected other cities, like villages, like towns, were all the same. Along the valley gutter he went, between the pitched rooftops, over the trapdoor towards her skylight. For so long his porthole into a secular paradise. Now it was a forbidden intrusion. He crouched down. The skylight was open a couple of inches. Hallam told himself that he should announce his presence before looking in. He gripped the outside of the window frame with both hands, closed his eyes, and told himself he should knock or cough or call her name. He did not want to startle her, but perhaps she wasn't there after all. He listened, and though he heard the soft hiss of a personal stereo, stealthily and with exquisite guilt, Hallam took a look inside. There she was, on the bed with her eyes shut, in a tracksuit, with headphones on. Hallam watched and felt the odd, equivocal feelings run through him, the melancholy, the unreachableness, the enigmatic fascinations of observation. He levered his eyes away from the glass. He sat down on the warm lead roof with his back to the skylight and dipped his head, searching for strength. Then he reached over and picked up the roses. He got on his knees and dropped the bouquet on the skylight. Then he sat back, cross-legged, and waited for when she would open her eyes. 3 minutes, 42 seconds later, and the skylight window was tipped. The roses slid inwards and fell out of sight. Hallam waited another 58 seconds before he heard her voice, wary, impatient. "Are you still there?" Despite his longing to answer, he did not. He could not. He heard the sound of movement below, a bounce of bed springs, and 2 sets of slim female fingers briefly appeared on the sill. They strained for a moment. "Help me," she said, her voice clenched from the effort. Hallam rose, stood astride the window, grabbed each of her wrists, and with a straight back lifted her onto the roof. She rubbed her wrists and looked at him. He had stepped back deferentially and was peering at his feet. He glanced up. She looked around at the view. "It's beautiful up here." Hallam's fears abated slightly, and he joined her admiration of the urban panorama. "I know." They moved to sit on the ridge, felt on the lead tiles, keeping them steady in the light breeze which occasionally flickered her long hair towards and across her face. "What made you want to watch?" "It wasn't about sex. Not directly, anyway." "Then what?" He thought about this. "It was about making sense of things, of people. It must have been some kind of escape." "Yes, but I'm trying to understand." Hallam tried too. "I thought that if I could understand how other people live their lives, then maybe it would help show me how to live my own. I mean, private life, intimacy. Maybe that's what I lacked. I didn't know how to go about getting it." "Love, you mean?" Hallam shrugged. "The thing is, I think I was given love, only I forgot." He paused. "I wanted to know how to be normal, but what I saw of normality put me off, so I ended up—" He waved his hand vaguely. "Nowhere." She laughed. "So what was the paragon of normality you studied?" "Alasdair?" She stopped laughing, noticing how he avoided her gaze. He was amazed that she had not seriously considered the possibility of having been under detailed observation until now. It was a struggle. You could see in her face the sense of having been invaded, the pure creepiness of finding that you had been someone's subject. You can trust me with everything, he said. You can always trust me. She wavered, perched there on the ridge, disgust pushing her one way, understanding the other. She pulled back the hair from her face with the wind had just blown it. She thought hard. Some things I don't want to know. About myself, I mean. She turned to look at him. Your sister told me that when you were only 16 you saved her from a gang of hooligans and took a punch in the mouth for it. 17, he corrected, silently blessing Lucy. Actually, it wasn't quite like that. I didn't know you were chivalrous, but oddly enough, I can believe it now. Do you know, she said after a moment, Alistair's been trying to get hold of me again. That's partly why I wasn't answering the door. I thought it might be him. There was a short silence. You're still angry with me, he said. She looked at him dryly. Attempting to murder your stepmother is generally regarded as a dumping offense. Not that we were going out anyway. Of course not. Are you talking to your father again? We never did talk. I thought that he was indifferent to me, and it peeved me off. I was right, too, but it's okay now. I'm beginning to admire his style. Lucy told me he's asking for planning permission to construct a full steeple for Chanby Church in steel and glass. The village will go mad when it goes public. What about you? You mean the Carter writ? She was irritated. No, forget about the writ. That will be sorted out in the end. What I meant was, you're going to have to live your own life now. Apply what you've learned. Am I alone in that? Their eyes met. Her hair blew in her face and back again. She pulled some strands out of the side of her mouth, laughed, and pulled out a pack of cigarettes of her tracksuit. She tried to light one, but the hair was a problem again. Hallam carefully reached out and pulled it back for her, his fingers lightly touching the nape of her neck. He felt the warm skin cool now that it was exposed to the breeze. A puff of smoke whipped across his face, and he let his hair fall back. Thanks, she said, exhaled. Then she turned to face him matter-of-factly. No, you're not alone. The lights were off, and the blind was drawn across the skylight. Some items of clothing had been stuffed behind it to block the last cracks of the daylight. Tell me your fantasy. In the wardrobe. There was a giggle. Now that is weird. I was expecting a roofer figure in there somewhere. Too exposed. There was a pause as she thought about the request, then a slow intake of breath. Whoa, coffins. Hallam managed to laugh. A sane laugh. Fairly sane, anyway. No, I happen to like the smell of wood. You don't want me to take a cold bath and lie very still? No, I just want you to love me. The blind had been rolled back once more to let in the afternoon sunshine. Hallam dressed and noticed the disc that had been of the Discman, Afro-Cuban All-Stars. Kate lay in bed and was watching him. She smiled lazily and raised an eyebrow as she looked his body up and down. He suddenly felt very self-conscious. He attempted to put on a sock, but lost his balance and toppled over onto the discarded roses. He squawked. She laughed. He got up again, dabbling thorn scratches on his thigh, face burning. Are you all right? Let me see. He paused, defensive, but then he showed her his leg. She ran a finger over his cut and gave it a small kiss. I better be going, said Hallam. His voice was strangled. He struggled with his plimsolls. She was smiling at him. He was not used to any of this. He got up on the bed quickly and with a small bounce caught the lip of the skylight and prepared himself to lift up. You can use the door, you know, she said. He swung gently under the sill, twice, 3 times, thinking, no, it's quicker this way. He pulled himself up through the panel of light. Then he turned, crouched, and looked down to where she lay. Her hair spread out across the pillow, her expression half expectant, inquisitive. He decided that he liked the way she looked at him. He smiled, waved his fingers, and made his own way across the city. Thank you for listening to Hallam Foe by Peter Jinks. That's the second time I've read the book to YouTube before. Out loud. I read the book when I was a teenager, and I was excited about the movie coming out. And there are many things about the movie that I actually feel like lots of changes here and there that some of them I think are good and some of them I think are not that great with how it changes things. I feel like in both cases the end is kind of an open end where it's like you don't really know if like you kind of feel like things are going to work out between them, but you don't really know. And the movie, there's that sort of like unanswered thing as well. Kind of an open end there. But I feel like the movie end is a little more sort of responsible. In a way. Because she does acknowledge that she is older than him. And she's hoping he matures a little bit more. So I like that. I like that sort of like responsibility edge to the movie. The way that it ends. But I didn't like certain scenes that were changed in the movie that I felt like made certain things a lot worse. Instead of it being Verity that his boss at one point reminds him of, it's his own mother. Instead of it being his own sister who reminds him of his mother in the movie, it's the girl he's dating. So there were a lot of weird things where it's like the movie, I feel like, almost made it a little bit more corrupt in places. There is a scene between him and Verity in the movie that I feel like it's not just that it wouldn't work in the book, but also the fact that it kind of changes focus of a lot of things that happen later, if you were to say this supposedly happened. So in that way, I definitely prefer the book. And if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't like the beginning of the book or the movie. I feel like that sort of beginning just right away automatically is just going to give anybody watching or reading it the wrong impression immediately, which is actually the opposite of what the heart of the story really is. And throughout the book, what it's said of his character, it goes completely against that in a weird way, where it's like on the one hand, it is comical, it is funny, but on the other hand, it's, at first glance, it just doesn't look that way. It looks like he's just another person watching people together, and it just makes the book out to be very raunchy all the way through, and it really isn't. And the movie too, like that scene sets you up with a weird sort of like anybody who hasn't read the book would think that the movie's just going to be like really filthy all the way through or something. Anyway, let me know what thoughts you had or what parts you might have liked.